Hello.
Hello.
Hope everyone's well.
Happy spring.
Happy spring, yeah.
First day of spring for you this week. And back after a couple of months, I think it's been. Great music session last night. And we're just going to share what we've been listening to.
Yeah, just so in case you're a new viewer, what we do is we've been getting together for a very, very long time, even pre-YouTube, and playing music to each other, usually about every month, so every couple of months. And so we started doing YouTube videos to talk about it. So hope you enjoy it. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Lovely.
It's all random, by the way. It's not planned.
It is. There's no playlist. What a way to kick the session off.
Definitely.
Miles Davis is On the Corner. Was that his second or third Electric album? After Jack Johnson or Jack?
Fourth, because you had Bridges Brew, Live Evil, Jack Johnson, and then On the Corner.
And we listened to basically side one just segues into track after track until you get to Black Satin. So I think we listened to Thinking One Thing and Doing Another and Vote for Miles. And just to say, anybody who doesn't know this record still sounds completely space age and so just different from anything else you've ever heard before or kind of we may ever hear again. I don't know. It just seemed to be a real moment of real experimentation. And what I was noticing yesterday was the solidity of Michael Henderson's very, very minimal bass line that was just very incrementally changing and shifting, but was locking down this incredible polyrhythmic melange of tabla and very kind of funky but sort of slight odd drumming.
Yeah,
it was a lot of stuff happening.
I can still remember when it came. I remember buying it. I was into Miles by this time, although I came quite late to him. And I remember it coming out and buying it the day it came out, getting home and playing it. I thought, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
it just sounded amazing. And it's that mixture of, he was kind of channeling Sly Stone, Stockhausen, and Indian music, and you can kind of hear that. But as Mark says, you don't hear anything like that.
No, and so open.
Yeah,
just really just sort of floating in the ether. Just sort of held by the bass, actually, is the only thing that's stopping it completely floating.
And that weird kind of hi-hat drumming pattern.
Weird hi-hat. Great little flashes of John McLaughlin's guitar, and was it Dave Liebman with tenor sax? Yeah, excellent.
So I played, my first two records were both CDs, so I hope this doesn't get us, we were saying, I hope this doesn't get us cancelled. my first one was a record by Dave Binny, who's getting the alto sax player, who's moved to Los Angeles and is now kind of merging with parts of the new kind of LA scene. People like Lewis Messer made a record with Lewis Cole, which I've only got as a download, so there'll be nothing to show on this. But this is from his album called Balance, which came out on ACT, or the ACT label, back in, I guess it was the kind of early 2000s. Great band with Wayne Krantz on guitar, Yuri Kane on keyboards, Tim LaFave on bass, and the wonderful Jim Black on drums, who was a big influence on Lewis Cole, of course. And it just sounded pretty fresh, actually. Really not, and also quite different to a lot of what other fusion stuff was around at that time. But he's a real talent, and he's getting a real second wind, actually, thanks to the LSA. That's better. You can see the cover now. Thanks to the LA guys.
Well, this next one was an album that had been on my wants list for about 10 years. Came out in, I think, 2010. And has just been commanding a ridiculous price for the original vinyl, which came out on Blue Note, like literally hundreds of pounds. Just been reissued on a different label, First Word Records, and it's the another horn player, Takuya Kuroda. The album's called Rising Sun. It's got some phenomenal playing, particularly drumming, from Nate Smith, who we were just saying is one of many amazing drummers that are around at the moment. It's a gatefold, double vinyl. It's just a great album. Just sounds really, really great. In a way, I guess, just an example of the sound that I guess the UK jazz fraternity have been trying to make, but they just don't play as well, unfortunately, a lot of the time.
That's the problem, I think. Yeah. I think it must have been one of the first things that Don did for Blue Note when he took over, I think, actually.
We listened to a track called Marla, but I mean, the whole album is great, highly recommended, and a reasonable price. So, I mean, pick it up while it's around.
I have to say, I was pretty transfixed by the drumming when that record came out.
Yeah.
Can't remember much else about anything else.
No.
Jim Beard, the keyboard player, passed away much too young a few weeks ago. Caused a lot of kind of concern, a lot of love coming from people in the musician community. He was a keyboard player, worked for quite a long time with Wayne Shorter. Also, for the last 15 years, he's been the keyboard, handling the keyboards, apart from Donald Fagen for Steely Dan. Great composer, great arranger, kind of slept on really. I think he's never really got much recognition outside of kind of small kind of circles. But this album, Song of the Sun, is probably could be my most played ever CD, which is fantastic.
That's an accolade and a half.
I know, really, really interesting compositions actually on here. And I played the hell out of it when it came out, and I still play it a lot. And played a track called Baker's Annex, which features a fantastic saxophone solo from Michael Brecker, and also some great bass playing, written bass parts for Anthony Jackson on there as well. But check him if you don't know Jim. I know people who know him and love him, but if you don't know Jim Beard, check him out.
Had a bit of a Latin flavour to it, that tune, and prompted me to play this 12-inch, which is it's come out on Vega Records, which is little Louis Vega's record imprint. It's called Domo Domo, Happening in the Streets. We listened to the Domo rework. It's a tribute to the Voltage Brothers. I'm not sure who the Voltage Brothers are, but it sort of starts a bit of a kind of classic filtered bass line groove, and then it just erupts into a real sort of salsa disco frenzy, I would say. Some great piano playing, some great congas and timbalas, and definitely something that will be getting dropped at the next live All Points DJ session, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that. Just come out, I think, fairly recently. Yeah, 2023.
I then wanted to put out an epic 12-inch track, and didn't mean to play the whole side, but we ended up playing the whole thing in the end, which is the amazing extended version of Mountains from Prince. He was putting out such great singles around this time. I know that quite a few people out there are big Prince fans as well, but I think when he was still doing his own mixes rather than handing it over to other people, I think they were fantastic sounding. They're epic, really. So much going on, different phases and so forth. And this is an amazing 12-inch, but it's got Mountains on one side and the incredible track Alexa to Paris on the other side as well. Kind of classic Prince, really.
Oh, it was a real journey of a mix. So many different kind of sections and sonics going on. Made me think of, tracks that kind of end up slightly differently from how they start, or go somewhere completely different. I mean, this is a ridiculous example. This is the Daryl Hall album called Sacred Songs that was produced, I think, in about 1979 by Robert Fripp. So Daryl Hall of Daryl Hall and John Oates, Hall and Oates fame. A very different sounding record. We listened to the track called Babs and Babs, which starts off quite traditional, and then literally about 2/3 of the way through, it just kind of frips out into
Get the Frippatronics.
The Frippatronics kick in. Great guitar solo, actually, and it was actually making me realise, because I think Todd Rundgren produced a Hall and Oates album. I think it was War Babies, wasn't it? But I really hear the comparisons with Todd and Daryl Hall, both vocally and sort of arrangements as well. But yeah, an interesting album, and one that you can pick up very cheap. So I should say, if anyone hasn't seen the King Crimson film that came out, my good friend Ollie edited it. I thought it was great. John, you weren't so sure.
I like the full film was great. I just
not so keen on Robert.
Just gone off Robert Fripp a bit.
Okay. But a great music film, I think. I thought it was a fantastic film.
Yeah, no, really, beautiful. And it looks fantastic as well.
Yeah.
It's a nice job. I thought the concert footage of the most recent band was fantastic as well. So keeping in the kind of yachty area, it's interesting that Michael Franks is getting a bit of a kind of refurbishment, I think, in terms of views of him at the moment. And this is his first album, which was just called Michael Franks, and this is well, so you can see from the title, it's been reissued. It was reissued back in the late 70s, I think. And this is this is very different to the other Michael Franks records that came after. It's more in a kind of folk rock kind of vein, but also with quite a lot of very extended pieces, and it's kind of followed on from the Daryl Hall track, so it just goes into a whole long instrumental section at the end of it. It actually the original album came out with a bottle of Brut when you bought it, and Brut was a kind of fragrance which was quite big at one point in the late 70s, which was incredibly strong. And I remember wearing it to try and impress a girl I was going out with at the time, and I think she virtually needed a respirator and a face mask. So I expected to get her in. Anyway, but this is a great album, really amazingly good production as well, actually.
Really good.
Considering he hardly made anything, just done a few demos at this point. He went in the studio with basically the Wrecking Crew and the whole cream of the Los Angeles session musicians. So interesting. But very different. I mean, it's very different to all the other Michael Franks albums that came after.
As I was listening to it, it really put me in mind of this album, which is Labbi Siffre, the UK singer-songwriter, really. I mean, just a really amazing artist. And the track called The Vulture, which has a very similar kind of slightly acoustic but very funky, and in this case a really sort of quite dramatically arranged sort of strings and horns and all kinds of stuff going on. This has actually got the cream of the crop of the UK session players on it. Great album, also renowned for including the track I Got There, which was famously sampled by Eminem. So yeah, great. And this came out on Mr. Bongo, actually. This is a lovely pressing. Yeah, recommend it. What's the album actually called? Remember My Song.
A man who got really badly mistreated by the UK music industry. Kind of interesting, yeah. Then went for somebody else who's seems to be getting a bit of a kind of, just being looked at again in a new light as well. It's Bobby Blount. I mean, obviously classic blues singer, but he made 2 albums for, I think for A&M at the time. Was it A&M? MCA, which were with produced by Michael Omartian, who also was involved with the next record we're going to get as well. And there's a great interview with Michael Omartian on Rick Beato's channel on YouTube. And they were kind of slightly more soul orientated than his usual blues stuff. And this one, which is called his California album, has some great and a great track on here called Going Down Slow, which is a bit of a kind of electric blues classic. But the band's fantastic, with Wilton Felder on bass, Ed Green on drums, Larry Carlton on bass, and this one and also the other album, which I think is called Beware, which came out at the same time, are both absolute classics actually. So Bobby Blount, and this is a reissue that came out on BGO, because it got very hard to find on vinyl. This came out about 10 years ago on BGO.
Really good album,
really
I have to say. Yeah. Well, really good track. I don't know the album, but it sounded fantastic.
For bass heads, it's got an amazing bass line on this track as well.
Really nice and just great. Very kind of present vocals, just right up front. Yeah, so as John was saying, Michael Omartian has suddenly been someone that I've noticed, even though I hadn't really noticed him prior. This is not exactly a rare record.
It's actually not that easy to find.
Is it not?
No.
Okay. Christopher Cross came out in 1979. Definitely didn't sound not remotely post-punk.
No.
I mean, it's just a class. This is a yacht rock. This is kind of the absolute one of the top 5, I think, in that kind of sound. Really nicely produced. We listened to the track "Ride Like the Wind," which has John showed me a great video. Michael McDonald pops up literally for about 3 lines, but you really notice he's there. But there was a very amusing video of what that recording session might have looked like.
Him jumping out of his car, going up in the escalator, in the lift, going into the room, recording his lines, and going out and back into his car to another session, basically. Michael Omartian, if you've got your collection on Discogs, you should search for Michael Omartian. You'll probably find he's on half your record collection. You didn't even know he was there. So I just really then moved on to just one of my favourite singers, Anita Baker, who I understand is recording a new record for Blue Note, which I'm very excited about, really. Just a fantastic singer. Also kind of voice that's very unfashionable these days. I mean, so many, a lot of singers around sound like they're toddlers or something or other, or trying to be 10 years old or something or other. But anyway, this is from her second album, which was Rapture, and played the track Sweet Love off it. Just great singing.
And just interesting, at the time when that came out, I wasn't really looking at who was playing on what, but now realising just so many great players on that.
Totally. Yeah, we've got Ricky Dawson and we've got Freddie Washington, and the bass line is absolutely integral to the song.
Great tune.
You kind of don't really, when you listen to the song, you don't really particularly notice the bass line, but you suddenly realise that actually it cues up all the vocals all the way through the whole thing.
And I actually there's a great drum and bass version by M-Beat, which I dropped at the last session, and the people were looking a little bit puzzled because it starts just like Sweet Love, and then suddenly explodes. But great, it's a great song. Talking of great singers, who is going to be curating the Meltdown at South Bank? It's Shaka Khan, and this is her first solo album.
No,
second. What You Gonna Do For Me, featuring Hamish Stewart, very all over on guitar, and gets a big credit. We listened to a track that people don't normally listen to called Fate, which I came to because it was the sort of 3-second sample formed the basis of the Music Sounds Better With You, it's called Stardust track that came out in the late 90s, big sort of Italo disco house crossover track. Anyway, we listened to Shaka, wonderful playing, and again another appearance from Anthony Jackson.
It's interesting with both Shaka's solo albums and also all of the Rufus albums. There's obviously the big tracks on all of them, but there's some great songs hidden away on all those records actually. Then I think we might have had a break actually.
Might have done.
Because I then came up with just Laura Nyro, just constantly amazed really about how these records were made in the late 60s, and they sound, I mean, she must have been such a huge influence on Joni Mitchell. I know Miles absolutely loved Laura Nyro and kind of wanted her to be on his records and things like that, which was kind of slightly weird because that was the time of British Brew time. But anyway, from her second solo album, we even played the first track, which is called Lucky. Just incredibly talented, really.
And staying with great female singers, I recently picked this up as a reissue, which is something which I know you can pick up for peanuts in the States, but because of its status as a rare groove classic, has been quite expensive in the UK to get an original copy. And I'm talking about the track Moonshadow, cover of the Cat Stevens song by Labelle, Nona Hendrix and Sarah Dash, and of course Patti LaBelle. And if you've never heard the track Labelle, then I pause this video and go and listen to it. Moonshadow. Yeah, sorry, Moonshadow. What a tune. What a breakdown. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Just pure vibes. And actually the whole album's good, but it's overshadowed by Moonshadow, which is the title of the album.
Of course, written by Cat Stevens.
Exactly.
Yeah. After the quick rant, I mean, vinyl prices in the UK are going insane, basically. I mean, both for new vinyl and used vinyl, absolutely. I mean, you look at any kind of equivalent of what's going on in the US or in rest of Europe, absolutely mad. I mean, things are coming out here at 40, 44, 45 quid, which in the States are only 20. It's absolutely bad. A lot of money being made, I think. So from the Bell to the Crusaders, and this is kind of not probably their most famous record, actually, in a way. And it's when they started just to loosen their sound up a little bit and move into other areas. And this is a track, Free as a Wind, which actually has a string and horn arrangement on it as well. But also some great weird drumming from Styx Hooper. He basically just plays rim shots all the way through the whole track. And some great guitar playing again from Larry Carlton, again making his second appearance in the show.
And Wilton Felder as well.
Wilton Felder. So basically you can't go wrong with the Crusaders, really. I mean, virtually all their albums up to, don't particularly like Street Life, but all the ones before then, really good.
Wilton Felder playing through some kind of a filter.
Yeah.
Which led me,
Wilton Filter,
to the wonderful Eddie Harris, a regular on these shores. And, from that incredible run on Atlantic of albums. This one's from 1977. How Can You Live Like That? Every track a winner, and just within seconds you hear it's Eddie. It just sounds. She's just so original.
Yeah.
Almost a kind of Ornette type.
Yeah.
Top line on this.
Very much so.
But then it sort of swings with a big band, and then you've got Rufus Reid on 5-string sort of
a very long
plectrum
5-string
bass.
plectrum bass solo.
Yes. We listened to the tune called Ambidextrous, but I mean there's so many great tunes. I really love Eddie's voice as well when he sings. He just oozes vibes and feeling and soul. I think Eddie, he's definitely a real one-off.
Very interesting character, because a lot of the people who play on his albums are from the AACM, the whole Art Ensemble of Chicago, kind of etc. school. So you get a lot of people from the Art Ensemble. You get people like Richard Abrams and all this kind of. So he had that kind of foot in, very much in the avant-garde camp as well as in the kind of soul jazz thing. He just was complete one-off, really.
And I noticed a Richard Evans arrangement and production who has featured.
The Chicago scene. Somebody should write a book about the whole of that Chicago scene. It's fascinating. You had everything from, from Art Ensemble Chicago to Charles Stepney, really, all happening at the same time. It was just amazing. So talking about absolute one-off iconoclasts, we had Henry Threadgill. I was very excited to see the lineup of the Big Ears Festival, which was absolutely extraordinary. Actually, and also the fact that Henry Threadgill got his amazing band Very Very Circus out, which is a lineup including 2 guitars, 2 tubas, drums, alto saxophone, and I think a trombone as well. Kind of really weird lineup. And this is from his album called Too Much Sugar for a Dime, which came out in the 90s. But it looks like he's got this. I saw this band live, and they absolutely, literally almost blew my head off, actually. I mean, the air moving around in the room with 2 tubas blasting at you in a small room was fantastic. A complete. There'll never be another. Well, thankfully, he's still with us as well, but there'll never be another Henry Threadgill. Absolutely, total one-off, really. And just uncategorizable music, really. And if you don't know Henry's work, this one came out on Bill Laswell's Axiom label. Mark's got a message here.
Yeah. We're going to keep moving.
Keep moving.
Yeah, with more genius music. I again come to this a little bit late. This apparently, according to John, is one of 3 double live albums of this particular Zappa lineup. This is from 1991, and it's called Make a Jazz Noise Here. And I think this is the last album before they had to sack the bass player, who was the musical director.
Well, Zappa stopped playing live after this.
Okay.
Yeah.
We listened to the incredible Black Napkins track, which just wonderful arrangement and an incredibly bizarre guitar solo, very short, but literally sounding like nothing else I've ever heard before. Wonderful.
Incredible tone. I don't know how he got that tone. So sticking with Frank, but a very different kind of sounding, Frank played a track of Sleep Dirt, the title track of Sleep Dirt, which was one of the 3 or 4 albums that Frank issued to get out of his Warner Brothers contract, shades of Prince, actually. Well, his WA contract anyway. And these are all reissued on the album called Lava. But Sleep Dirt's a great track because he's playing acoustic guitar in a duo with, I think, Bowlegs Ewams, I think the guy he's playing with as well. Just again, you can hear, even though he's playing without any effects and with just acoustic, you can instantly hear it's Frank from his phrasing, really.
So it sort of also sounded slightly flamenco-ish.
Yeah,
it's
very
really
much so.
interesting. Yeah, beautiful playing. Again, super close mic'd.
Yeah.
Really great sound. And terrible cover for this reissue of Below the Bassline, which is an Ernest Ranglin solo album, which I think came out in the early 2000s, possibly. Oh no, 1996. And got reissued for Record Store Day a few years back. Ernest Ranglin, a real Jamaican guitar innovator. I mean, right back to the early 60s, very involved in Millie Small's My Boy Lollipop, which was the great sort of reggae crossover hit over here. Fantastic player, very, very distinctive, unusual style. Again, you can when you hear him solo, you know it's him within seconds. This is a great band with Monty Alexander on the piano and Idris Mohammed on the drums. Ira Coleman on the bass, and we listened to the track Ball of Fire, which is a Scatolites tune, which actually featured Roland Alfonso, who was the original sax player on the track. Just if you don't know this album, it's a great. It really fuses reggae and jazz quite seamlessly and brilliantly.
Definitely. Great stuff. Then we had another break, then came back with this, which amazing, I've never played at a session before, which is, and I've just been very struck by reading interviews with lots and lots of musicians, how this and My Funny Valentine, which was from the same concert, were the reasons they got into music, and it's certainly got a particular kind of atmosphere, this record. This was the quintet, but with George Coleman still before George Coleman was sacked, of course, shortly after this gig. But an amazing. This is basically all the fast tunes from the night at the Philharmonic, whereas the My Funny Valentine album is all the ballads and so forth. And it is absolutely. I mean, kind of Tony Williams is just out of this world with kind of drumming. And we played the version of So What, which I think is probably taken at twice the tempo of the original.
At least it's absolutely.
But it still works, actually.
It does work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does work.
And then Miles, of course, sacked George Coleman he heard him practicing licks, basically, which he was going to use in his solo, and that's an absolute no-no. And Miles got sacked from the band, and then Wayne joined.
Some of the best Miles playing, I think, ever, actually.
He was
really
fluid.
really
on fire.
Really on fire, yeah. And just so interesting, taking a risk with a 17-year-old drummer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I do remember being in a similar situation and getting an incredible 17-year-old drummer to play, and it was wonderful. It's just a different kind of energy.
Because he'd already played quite a long time with Jackie McLean at that time, as well, so God knows what age he was there.
Staying with great trumpet players, this time Harry Beckett, who didn't release many solo albums. This one came out on Decca in the late 60s and then got reissued recently, I think, through the whole kind of Gearbox remastering thing. And you got, again, John Sermon, Mike Osborne, Alan Skidmore, John Taylor, Chris Lawrence and John Webber. Amazing selection of UK jazzers. And a really, original quality UK jazz sound, I think. But Harry's just a great player, both on flugelhorn and trumpet.
Particularly on flugelhorn, I think it sounds great. They were virtually resident down the road from where my college was, so we'll see them almost every week. Actually, they're a fantastic band. So happy birthday to Roy Haynes, who's 99, I think, this week. Just incredible. They're still having with us, really. Somebody who played with Charlie Parker. There was nobody else around, I think, who was in that position. And this is from what somebody described, I think it was Jazz and Coffee, described on Instagram as being everybody's favourite record, really. Does anyone not like this record? This is from Out of the Afternoon. Great band with Roy, with Tommy Flanagan on piano, Henry Grimes on bass, and Roland Kirk on assorted reeds, and played the track Snap Crackle, which is almost like his theme tune, really.
Really lovely, lovely. And also we wanted to wish Bill Frisell a happy birthday. I think he's turned 70.
I think he's 73 or 74, I think.
74. This is the album Music Is, another CD, and we played the absolutely sublime track called Ron Carter. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Lots of different versions of that as well. It always sounds great. This I've talked about a bit on Instagram as well, but this is the new Charles Lloyd record with Jason double vinyl with Jason Moran, Larry Grenadier and Brian Blade. Very, very special record. Feels for me like I love Charles Lloyd's work. He's incredibly prolific, but he's got in unbelievably high standards in terms of quality. This is just a beautiful record, actually. It goes through, it's a real kind of trip in the sense it goes through so many different kind of moods and styles on here as well, but beautifully played. And played the track called The Water Is Rising off here, which he's recorded a few times on different records, but really nicely put together. Great band, phenomenal recording. I think it might be the best sounding Blue Note I've heard for a very long time, actually. And the famous tone poet Joe Harley, who's obviously been involved with that whole series, co-produced this as well, which makes me think this is just more than just doing another record for him, actually. Another great sounding record that came out digitally last year is, it was around September last year, suddenly 2 Cleo Soul albums appeared. There was Golden and this one, which is called Heaven. And initially, it sounded a little thin as I was running through the tracks, but I don't know, there's something about her voice for me, and the production is so subtle and sparse, but there's just, it's everything that needs to be there is there. And well, as you know, I'm a massive fan of Cleo and her boyfriend and producer Inflow.
Definitely. I have a baby.
I have a baby.
Helen Merrill, from a different era and a very different kind of cover as well. Fantastic stuff. I think she's increasingly becoming my favourite from that kind of jazz, classic jazz kind of style singing. Increasingly becoming my favourite singer, actually. I think, the voice is wonderful. And this is from a great album with some amazing musicians here: Thad Jones, Ron Carter, Pete LaRocca, Arnie White, and a whole load of people. And this was just a duo, really, with her and Ron and Jim Hall, and it's called Deep, and it's a track called Deep in the Green.
And did you say this was your dad's copy?
This is my dad's copy. Yeah.
Lovely.
I bought it for my dad. I think I liked it more than he did. But, my dad's not around anymore. I should say I haven't stolen this from him.
An album that I was given actually yesterday when I went to our local record shop that's going to be closing down, just because the owner knows I'm a big fan of Peter Green. Probably wouldn't have bought this band. I bought this album on my own, but being gifted it was nice. I mean, he's not in the best of health, I feel, at the time of these recordings, but there's something about Peter Green and when he sings and plays, you just feel he really means it. And we listened to the track called Me and the Devil Blues.
So keeping with that kind of guitar playing, really, never played any Ry Kudra session, which is quite odd, really, considering I've been doing this for nearly 40 years or something or other. Anyway, I played the track Tatler off one of my favourite Ry Kudra albums, Paradise and Lunch. There's a whole story behind this kind of thing on here, but I won't go into it now because it's quite gross, actually. Anyway, so that's how we finished the session.
I want to hear about it.
It involved a projectile pooing cat, basically.
Oh, right.
He pooed on a lot of my records, so I had to clean off a load of records at one point or other.
Wow.
Yeah, Gary the cat.
Wow.
Don't let your cat with tummy problems anywhere near your records, that's all I can say. So Paradise and Lunch, anyway. On that note...
On that tasteful note, we will wish you goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone who's watching. Seem to be getting a lot of people watching and commenting, so very much appreciated. And as we always say, John and I both do regular radio shows. The links are underneath the video, so do tune in. Let us know if you listen, and I hope you have a good time, whatever you're doing.
Good spring to everyone in the Northern Hemisphere, and happy full autumn in the South.
Very good. See you next time.
Yeah.